Hello, hola, bonjour, and howdy.
Howdy!
Welcome to the first episode of CU Online Diaries. At this forum, we explore the latest trends in online education around the world. And here at Chandigarh University, at Center for Distance and Online Education, today we have with us an educationist, a philanthropist, a well-traveled person. Dr. Professor Robert J. Woodward. Howdy, Dr. J.
Howdy.
So, as we know, Chandigarh University online is at the forefront of online education in India as well as around the world. So today we are going to talk about several nuances of online education and what is happening in online education around the world and how those trends can help us get better for our students and to make them more engaging and fruitful learning experience for them. So you have been into teaching for almost more than 3 decades, Dr. J, and you have seen those shifts in education, going back and forward. And you have been traveling around the world in different institutions, and you have been collaborating with various top institutions around the world. So my first question to you would be, in addition to just a little bit telling about yourself and the institute that you are in currently, Texas A&M University, and then if you can ponder upon a little bit about what is new normal for education.
Well, thank you, Dr. Joshi, for having me, and howdy to those that are listening. I'm pleased to be the first ever forum guest for the CU Online Lecture Series. I represent Texas A&M University. Texas A&M University is the third largest university in the United States. We have an annual enrollment of about 77,000 students who attend our campus, and I am in the College of Education and Human Development. Within the College of Education and Human Development, we have strong programs in developmental sciences, learning sciences, and learning design and technology, which is really at the forefront of what you're asking today.
Right.
On top of that, you're right. We're sitting here in India, and currently I'm leading a study abroad for students who are interested in learning about education systems around the globe. Because what we want to do at Texas A&M, and I think this is critical for CU Online, is when students come through our programs, we need to develop scholars.
Right.
Scholars who have knowledge about not only the information that they're studying in their degree plan, but knowledge that we put to use in a real world environment.
Right.
We are meant to educate those that will be in careers and in industries that we don't even know what's going to exist in the next 5 years.
Right.
So there's the notion of preparing them for the now, but then also using technology and all the infrastructure that universities like Texas A&M and CU Online provide to prepare them for the next stage, which is their future.
Right.
I've enjoyed leading study abroads for our students to really get a glimpse of culture as it exists in natural context,
Right.
to make connections between things that are similar to their environment, but also things that are new.
Right.
And here's the challenge. When you
Right.
encounter things that are innovative, that represent norms or practices or things that are effective in a learning community,
Right.
how can you take those and bring them back to your learning environment? That's the big goal of global education.
Right.
It's inspiring the passion, giving the knowledge, and then equipping them to put that into practice.
Perfect. That sounds very fascinating because as we proceed further in 21st century education, which is called the future ready learning. So for that, when I was there at Texas A&M, in 2020 and 2019. So I still remember that, we have worked for that education technology program, which is, I think under 15 right now around the world.
We are the 14th ranked program nationally in the United States, and we purposely made a nomenclature naming shift to our program. We used to be called educational technology,
Perfect.
but now we have looked at that it's learning design and technology.
Wow.
And that's critical. Because there's the piece about pedagogical preparation,
Right.
those things that we have to do in our instructional design, and the integration of technology into that to
Right.
further the student engagement in learning. And I would say
Right.
that this is something that CU Online is well equipped and well
Right.
prepared to do.
Right.
And it's the basis of our discussion today.
Right.
Because there are international standards, ISTE, the International Society for the Integration of
Right.
Technology in Education, looks at 7 core competencies that should really be the inspiration for educators in these spaces.
Right.
We have the aspect of design and development. we had the aspect of being a leader in fostering learning environments, but then collaborating, communities of practice, citizenry, citizenry at the largest stage of being globally involved in these initiatives.
Well, that's really nice. I mean, so I'm thinking the term that you have used, that collaboration. So can you provide some insights into the successful models or the frameworks for successful international collaborations that have been effective in fostering that academic growth and kind of innovation, particularly in the domain of online education?
Absolutely. I think A&M has been at the forefront, and I have a theorist that I always go back to. Keegan in 2009 said that if you are not prepared for transformation, then you risk falling behind. And transformational learning is really the modification of what exists and the preparation for the tomorrow that we envision for our students. We're meant to educate individuals for 21st century competencies. What we have done in the 20th century will no longer suffice. And it is intentional preparation. True learning occurs when the form itself, it is at risk of change. And change is what we need to bring to the ways that we educate students online. We need to connect the processes. I know CU Online has very, very strong individuals who develop the curriculum. Then you have very strong individuals who prepare the curriculum for presentation to those taking your courses. But when we look at the form and the change, there should be a synergy between those aspects and using principles of universal design for learning, multiple means of engagement, expression, and representation in the context. Making sure that we're reaching learning styles. Learning styles is critical. We don't want students to passively sit and just watch a lecture like they're watching Netflix. We want them to be inspired. We want them to be engaged. Often we design curriculum that has just two modalities, visual and verbal. And you have very strong graphics that integrate the visual, but how do we put those into practice? And looking at kinesthetic learning, looking at those things that would bring action to what they're viewing and inspire individuals to do two things. We distinguish between literacy, the knowledge of the content, but then also competencies, the ability to put it into practice. And all too often, online education stops at just the education part. We give them the information, but they don't know what to do with it. And I think that's critical, and it's the call to action that I think this forum was meant to address. And your university is well equipped to start.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks. For bringing in those ideas that what all we have been doing at Chandigarh University Online. So we have a Center for Distance and Online Education at Chandigarh University Online, ladies and gentlemen, where we practice all new pedagogical innovations. We have a specially designed center, which is called Instructional Design Innovation Center, where we have different segments where we do the recordings, and after that, it goes to instructional designing component, and then in the third domain, it goes to the graphic designing component. Then ultimately, it goes to quality assurance. Then before uploading on the LMS. So this is the whole kind of circle that helps learners to get more engaged into the content that they are watching on their screens. So that's the purpose of Instructional Design Innovation Center. So nice to listen to those ideas. So my next question goes to in your experience, what are some of the effective strategies for fostering meaningful engagement? Because since we are talking about, you have already spoken about the engagement. So do you think that there are some components, like a specific 1, 2, 3 kind of points that you would like to share with us, for the meaningful engagement in online education?
I appreciate the question, and I would say high impact practices matter. There is a theorist named George Koo who wrote an article in 2008 about high impact practices in higher education. High impact practices, what are they and why do they matter? And if you look at those 1, 2, 3 aspects, collaborative learning is at the very top. We don't need learners that are engaged solely through their own screen. We need them to feel connected to a larger community. Learners of practice, in which they develop an identity, a purpose, a connection. Yes, they're engaging in education because they see it as a benefit of furthering their own career. And we need to provide that to them. And that's a critical aspect that's involved in that. But giving them a larger sense of community in which to embed that. Within that, capstone projects. Those things that have real world relevance.
Wow.
An assignment that's not just something that you do that's rote completion and memorization and factual knowledge and multiple choice tests.
Right.
Real world problems.
Wow.
How can you take this theory and apply it to this domain? And everyone is coming from industry. If you look
Right.
at online education,
Yeah.
here's the notion. If you look at technology and how it has transformed workplaces, the workplace is no longer a single building that you go to.
Right.
Think about our global communities now.
Right.
These exist and they're interconnected by what?
Right.
Technology.
Yep.
And so therefore, if you have individuals that have this collaborative notion,
Right.
that we engage them with projects that have real world relevance, and here's the third point.
Right.
We need to make sure that they have the diversity and global competencies in order to make the impact not just in their own environment,
Right.
but environments that are increasingly connected across the web.
Right.
Here's the notion that if you are in an industry, you need to not only know the people that you're working with,
Right.
you need to know their practices. You need to know their customs. You need to respect them. You be knowledgeable about those aspects.
Yes.
And our university has made a big push. Texas A&M University has 6 core values: respect, excellence, leadership, loyalty, integrity, and selfless service. These core values permeate our education, and I feel like it provides a great pillar of design. We have these notions of high impact practices that can be embedded in online education. It takes purposeful effort.
Right.
It takes an alignment of these competencies, implicit biases and awareness, diversity consciousness, difficult dialogues.
Right.
How do we facilitate those? And
Yeah.
we were involved in a very innovative project. And you ask about how have I seen education be innovated.
Right.
I am now the instructor of record for a brand new global tech experience.
Oh.
This is an educational platform in which students are able to get elements of a traditional study abroad, fusing it together with a standard workplace internship. And so we have corporations in the US such as Lyft and Starbucks that have provided real world problems for our students to engage in, but not in a chat room, in a live lab.
Kind
in
of
which
case
they're
studies?
exactly
Yeah.
case studies in which they are connected with individuals all across the globe.
Right.
So it's not just a Tuesday, Thursday meeting of people that are in your program. It is a true interdisciplinary offering. When we offered that, we had 150 students sign up and a waiting list of 300.
Awesome.
We anticipate for this summer being able to enroll 300 with a waiting list of almost 600 more.
Oh, that's nice. I mean, since you are now spearheading one group for that cultural exchange in India, and I know that you have been doing these and taking these groups to different corners of the world for years. So, as per my understanding, culture plays an important role in education. So what do you think that the culture, especially beyond the demographics and the boundaries, so how that cultural difference plays an important role in making online education a big success?
That's a critical point.
Right.
And often students feel like they're prepared for entering into a global workplace.
Right.
Or an environment in which there are people and practices that differ from yours. Right. We strive for 2 things. There's the difference between a monocultural mindset,
right,
viewing things only from your own perspective, versus this continuum of intercultural mindset,
right,
in which you don't find differences.
Right.
What you're able to do is notice similarities.
Right.
Critical difference. Right. When we shift that perspective and find things that are common across situations, we are not looking through polarized lenses of us versus them.
Right.
We now identify the we.
Right.
And that is a critical notion for online education and community building. Right. And that's the type of things that I love to see in my students through reflective essays and purposeful engagement, pre-travel, preparing themselves for entering. Not that you can rely on previous passport stamps, not that you can rely on watching a Nat Geo film to understand what
right,
you're going to be seeing, not that you can do cooking classes or try new foods.
Right.
That's all part of traveling.
Right.
But that's knowledge.
Right.
What's the competency? What's putting it into action? And that's where online education can really serve to connect communities to people who would never have the opportunity to travel.
Right.
There is a big barrier to access to education and access to funds that are necessary. In fact, in the US, only 2% of a college population travel. That is a very small percentage. It's a privileged few.
Right.
And so you think about that, there's lots of barriers, finances and families and work schedules and those type things that make those type of opportunities possible. For those who get to go, what a transformational opportunity. But what we're doing at Texas A&M is we're realizing that global education doesn't have to be just travel.
Right.
we are, in fact, I invite CU Online to work with us on this. We have students who are traveling to India now in March of 2024. Next fall, in our fall semester, we'll have the same amount of students who are traveling to India virtually. Just like we have a film crew here that's documenting our conversation, we've had a film crew that's followed our group throughout India.
Right.
We filmed cricket. We did Bollywood yesterday. I'm sitting down because my hips hurt. I've not tried to move like that in a long period of time. They are experiencing things for the first time, and we're going to bring that through technology back to students who are given this opportunity to collaborate in international spaces without stepping foot outside of our campus.
Nice. I mean, nice to hear those things. And welcome to Chandigarh University. And ladies and gentlemen, at this point of time, I need to tell you a little bit about what Chandigarh University is doing in terms of online education. So we have a culturally diverse pool of learners. So we have around 35,000 plus students right now.
Wow.
And I see students for my master classes. I see students from Namibia, Zambia, South Africa, Dubai, and Canada. I mean, and the US. I mean, so when I was talking to them, I said, I mean, is this night right now at your place? They said yes. Somebody said it's morning. I mean, and I was sitting here in the evening, see? So that's the beauty of online education, ladies and gentlemen. So going forward from here, Dr. J, so how are the international collaborations, again, because my area of interest is online, that international collaboration. I mean, how international collaboration can enhance, teaching and learning experiences, for students, especially at Chandigarh University Online.
Student-centered learning needs to be at the basis of everything that's done.
Right.
We need to look at those things that are programmed into the programs that exist. We need to find ways to connect programs that exist that are doing good work.
Right.
And that's where the dissemination of practices, best practices through conference presentations, best practices through providing links and information. We were talking earlier about what LMS do we use.
Right.
And we've gone through the different iterations of Blackboard and Moodle and Canvas and those type things.
Right.
All those are our templates.
Right.
But looking how someone has purposely designed those to engage their students.
Right.
Finding those things that have been successful in online spaces. That is not unique to a university. That is not unique to a particular classroom.
Right.
Those are universal design principles that should be communicated and perpetuated. That's why ISTE said one of the biggest aspects that we need to consider is global citizenry and collaboration.
Right.
And those two notions, as to the initiatives for CU Online, I think it's an opportunity for growth. I think that you are establishing yourself in a space in which you are reaching a wide diversity of students. It's very impressive to hear the size of the program and the countries that you are reaching. As that expands, the footprint of CU Online is also expanding as well, being recognized in a global workplace and in an online environment as someone who is delivering high quality educational experiences for their students. But there's always room for growth, right? That's where these conversations occur. What is this university doing and how can we adapt or adopt those things through conversations, through these forums and through these engagements in which we are not supposed to do what impacts our students and just leave it in our own silo. We're meant to provide these practices and provide that information so that others can learn from them, adapt them and adopt them.
Right, that's nice. So what I'm thinking right now, I mean, I just want to a little bit dig deep and understand more about the differences, that education systems, around the world have, especially in terms of, in between the US and India. So when you visited here, I mean, this is, I think, your second time when you are visiting India,
Correct.
right?
Yes.
Okay. So you know about the education system, I mean, in India as well. I mean, and how do you compare and how do you see, I mean, let me just rephrase this very quickly. I mean, what potential do you see, I mean, in Indian educational system, I mean, that can cater to the current educational needs around the world?
That's interesting, and I don't want to speak into an area that I don't have a lot of knowledge, but I will provide this frame of reference. In the United States, typically about 2/3 of individuals who graduate high school, around 17, 18 years old, go on to an institution. In the United States, there's either 2-year or 4-year institutions. There are another third of those individuals who go into different aspects, employment upon graduation, vocational work, and those type notions. From there, if you look at those who are in online programs versus traditional face-to-face, we have seen a great growth of online programs, really transformed by COVID. COVID really looked at educational technology and its means to still provide educational opportunities.
Right.
And what it did for those who never envisioned that college was possible.
Right.
And I would imagine in India, there are those that envision that college is not possible for me. Post-secondary education is not something that I can engage in.
Yeah.
But what you've done is you've opened doors.
Right.
In fact, when you look at the impact that universities have on a global scale, there's something called the Open Doors Report.
Right.
And it looks at the number of students who study abroad and where they're traveling and the impact. Texas A&M is the #1 public institution for study abroad.
Right.
Now that's quantified by the number of students who travel, but I argue we don't do tourism.
Right.
We do transformational learning. We mean that every time that a student steps space into an educational environment and a learning space that they take from it, not in an appropriation type way, but rather something that they've noticed that they can bring back. And I think that's the call that you have here in India.
Right.
Not knowing about whether the costs and the barriers and what percentages, I'm not knowledgeable about those statistics, but what I do know is that now more than ever before, there is greater access to education.
Right.
We are now educating more people across the globe than ever before. I just read that India just became the #1 populous country in the entire world. And so now think about those possibilities. What you're programmed to do can reach an increasing population. And the majority of that growth in India is youth.
Yep.
And so therefore preparing your programs now for the people who will be coming through those programs in 10 years is, I think, the call and the challenge that CU Online has.
Yeah, that's nice. So I know in the US, that there is a program which is called GED. I mean, Graduate Equivalent Diploma.
Yes.
For the students, those who are either working or they have left their education somewhere at the mid. So in India also, like, the purpose of online education is, I mean, to cater to the needs of those students and learners. I mean, those who have either, somewhere, missed some of their education, or working professionals.
Yes.
So the majority of part comes from the working professional, in our online education programs. So what I'm thinking, how those working professionals, I mean, and their industry experiences, can, help, get the online programs better. I mean, so if you can talk about that.
Well, that's interesting. And what you're talking about is gaps, right?
Right.
You're talking about where someone was and where they want to be.
Right. Right.
And you're talking about someone who is looking at achieving a degree for the very first time and using that as a means to better themselves through education and offer more opportunities for the family, for themselves.
Right.
You're also talking about a mid-career professional who either has a terminal degree or has in some ways kind of ended their education.
Right.
But now they see this as a new start.
Right.
They see this as a means of professional growth, professional development. And we see in our programs a lot of mid-career professionals. Those that look at the increasing way of technology and how it's used. We offer this program, this global tech experience, to individuals who are studying everything from agriculture all the way on down to zoology. But yet the critical competencies that we're giving them on web design, global marketing,
that's nice.
Data analysis, being able to be critical consumers of information as it exists in a digital age.
Wow.
Everyone's on their phones.
Wow.
How do you engage people through this device, not just this device?
Right.
And a lot of people are seeing things not with their eyes, but through the lens of technology.
Right.
And so think about how many people view, in fact, I was reading this about education. Now in the US, adolescents spend more time on their cell phones than they do in school. This is not probably different in India as well. And we look at TikTok and all of the other aspects. And I know that was recently banned here. And so that platform, I don't know what's going to happen in the United States with regards to that. But we are needing to then, when they have this here, provide something just more substantive rather than just choreographed dance routines. Rather than just YouTube videos in which they're just sitting idly, allowing technology to numb their brain rather than inspire their imagination. And I think that's the big difference here, these gaps that you talk about. We have a generation that is so used to technology being a means of entertainment, it needs to be the focus of education.
Oh, that's fantastic. So I mean, it makes me think about two keywords. The first thing is that new age learning. I mean, how do we envision the education in the current century as well as in the future? I mean, that's number one. And the second thing I feel means how learners would like to invest their time and efforts, I mean, while they're working. So here comes my, the follow-up question. Like, I mean, in India, we have a lot of them. As you said, I mean, we are number one in population right now. So so many people, the good news is so many people are trying to get into education, during their mid-career, I mean, like, professional career. And at the same time, like, there are so many of them, those who feel like, their needs are not fulfilled. Yes. So, I mean, I'm just trying to understand, like, if you can ponder upon a little bit about, like, again, what differences do you see in terms of, like, the caterings of the online education in the US, as well as if you have any idea about, the caterings of the online education in India. So how do you see that difference? I mean, like, and if that there is a difference, otherwise, I mean, how do you, I mean, like, envision those, filling up of those gaps, like, in coming years through the, international collaborations?
You're asking for a forecast, and that's very difficult. So right. I won't put myself out there and say, here's what I think will happen.
Right.
But it's a fair question.
Right.
And I think it's a question that's really meant to inspire and drive a lot of the efforts. We would look at online education, and the first thing that we must do is make sure it's an equivalent experience.
Right.
That it doesn't in any way replace necessarily what students can get through conventional face-to-face classrooms.
Right.
But rather, we hold students to the same rigor.
Right.
We hold students to the same standards, because ultimately, the degree needs to mean something.
Right.
The degree needs to have an impact. And if you look at what online education can do, there is a global saturation of individuals who are graduating with degrees more so than ever before.
Right.
It's not so much do you have a diploma, it's
right.
what you can do with it.
Right.
That's the critical aspect.
Right.
And now in our society, a master's degree replaces a bachelor's, a PhD replaces a master's. We are educating more people than ever before, and it's exponentially rising.
Right.
And so therefore, we need to differentiate programs. Here's the call to action.
Right.
You need to, CU Online needs to position itself as a university that through its graduates, through its impact,
right.
through its philanthropy,
right.
through its mission, and I'm not sure of the mission of CU Online. I know it probably exists, and we can probably put that into the video here.
Right.
That's where those degrees escalate.
Right.
And their importance. When an employer looks at someone who has a degree from CU Online, they realize they're getting a quality
right.
person who is well-trained and equipped with the skills that will help them succeed. That's the call. That's that differentiation. That's why ranks matter. That's why it's not just do you have a diploma,
right.
what diploma do you have? And the differentiation of instruction, I will say in America, there is examples of institutions that do online education very, very well, and then large university systems that are built basically for profit.
Right.
That take people's money just so they can get a degree. They're basically diploma factories.
Right.
Will they be able to use that?
Right.
No one knows.
Oh, okay.
Success stories and testimonials, and
right.
I will say for CU Online, if I was looking at the best thing that you can do, tell the success stories through your graduates.
Right.
What have people done who have graduated from CU Online, equipped them
right.
for succeeding in today's workforce, but also they're going to be in a position
right.
to hire
right.
in 5 or 10 years.
Right.
They're going to move up to management and
right.
to CEO positions and those things. So they know what to look for in graduates.
Right.
And so therefore you model your program in a way that the outcome that is driven by quantitative data,
right.
that shows that this provides a differentiation. A student who enrolls in online education is going to want to know, what's my return on investment?
Right, right, right.
What is my ROI? What
yes.
is this going to do? And that's a fair question, right?
Right.
And we need to deliver that to them.
Right.
We have to make sure that their degree has value.
Right.
And I think we do that, and we substantiate that through testimonials and through the proper positioning of programs in a way that, as you said, have increased collaborations.
Right.
To where people outside of India know CU Online's name.
Right.
That those things that you're doing here in this country make it beyond the borders of India.
Right. Yeah, that's nice. I mean, so on that note, I just would like to mention it here that, at Center for Distance and Online Education at CU Online, so we focus mainly on the skills, the skill part, because, we are dealing with the working professionals and they are already at their job. What else do they want? I mean, like, from our courses. So that's what, like, one of the key areas that we focus on. Number one. Number two, we have several university immersion programs for our learners. So those are a week-wide or fortnight-wide or month-wide, immersion programs that we bring in our students, and learners across the globe to the university, and we give them the first-hand experiences. So that we call PCP, Personal Contact Program. So this is how we try to, optimize their learning experiences, especially in online education. So from here onward, like, just one quick, reflection of yours about how do you see the collaborations? If in case here also we are collaborating, right? And Texas A&M and Chandigarh University Online are sitting together over a table and talking about these things, and these are good times.
Right.
So how do you see the future collaborations between the Texas A&M and Chandigarh University Online?
The first space for any of those conversations is to develop a memorandum of understanding.
Right.
An MOU as to what we feel our universities offer a mutual beneficence to each other.
Right.
And MOUs really provide the basis for communication and then future collaboration.
Right.
I have a student who uses a phrase, future forward.
Right.
I also will say, I love the fact that when you talk about your students, you don't use the word student, you use learner.
Learners, yeah.
And that's very purposeful. And I love to hear that because it's not just a number. It's not just a statistic. It's not just a seat in a classroom or a space in an online Zoom room.
Right.
It's someone who has a story. It's someone who has a passion. They're driven to pursue that, and identifying them as a learner who's on a journey, I think is a strong statement that shows exactly where CU Online is positioned.
That's nice. So what I'm thinking, like, about Chandigarh University Online, and how do you think that, Chandigarh University Online, and especially our own department, Center for Distance and Online Education, how that department do you think is, playing a crucial role in shaping the online education landscape around the world?
Again, I can't speak to the demographics of your program. You've articulated those, and it's very, very impressive. By the very nature of everything that I've seen that has driven my involvement in your board, it attracted me to your university because of the mission and what you were doing. You are able to bring in minds and impactful individuals from all across the globe to help you with your mission. Those are things that generally excite individuals and provide a launch pad. Wow. I really think when you look at these biannual meetings that you have and you invite collaborators, and I have heard that you've got this huge lecture hall that is vibrant when it's alive, full of presentations that are attended by students, that are attended by professors and administrators, and not just those that are local to that area, but also from those that are around the globe as well. When people think of India, you have a lot of the major cities that pop to mind. You have Mumbai, you have Delhi, but I feel like you are doing a positive momentum to really kind of expand that border quite a bit. And you're doing it through collaborative, online, innovative technology.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. So you can continue. Ladies and gentlemen, let me just mention it here that, in our Board of Studies, we have several members across the world, like, from, let us say, for example, from Texas A&M University, we have 3 professors in that board as special invitees. So they give their perspectives of international education, and especially in terms of online education. So, and we have some professors coming from South Africa.
Nice.
Yeah. So they bring in their experiences, they share their ideas that, how we can make this whole online education, online world as one place where learners can just jump in and grab their education and, feel more connected, more engaged, and more inclusive. So that's the whole idea. So let us just get back to what you were saying.
Yes. So at A&M, I sit on the International Advisory Board as well. And I'm the College of Education representative to that particular governing body. And we look at initiatives, strategic partnerships. Our university is, again, a large university that has interconnectivity. We have campuses in Costa Rica. We have a campus in Italy. We have a campus that currently exists in Qatar. And even though that's being phased out, we have seen the value of sending students abroad.
Right.
That's what we have really tried to do, because we realize that doesn't have to be distance traveled to really make distance education work.
Right. Okay. With these conversations, we are almost towards the end of the our today's first episode, ladies and gentlemen. So, but before we leave, I just would like to thank Dr. Jay and for talking to us, and it would be very, very nice to have this conversation uploaded for our students and and our learners across the world. And we are really excited to have future collaborations, any potential future collaborations with Texas A&M, and we can share the knowledge and information, since we said that in online education it is just free from the boundaries, demographic boundaries. So I see a very, very bright future ahead. So before we wind up, do you have any final thoughts? Mentioning Texas A&M and Texas A&M, Chandigarh University Online, and the culture between India and the US.
It's a fair question. And again, thank you for inviting me to be part of the first episode. And I'm going to, I think, wrap up our conversation with what I started with.
Right.
If you look at standards in online education, there exists really 6 calls to action.
Right.
We have leadership in the design of intentional programs that educate individuals for the careers that they envision for themselves.
Right.
We need leaders in those spaces to really take, and I love the fact that you are representing your university on the global stage, really putting these informations out there, not only for your learners, but also for others to view.
Right.
That gets us into the next 2 points. Collaboration towards the establishment of a global citizenry.
Right.
Those are high impact practices. Collaborative learning and diversity and global learning, they go hand in hand. They elevate the experience. At the program level, there exist the last 2 pillars. Design, which you've spoken into, how your university is well positioned to create fantastic content that has rigor, that has undergone a lot of vetting for its standards and the information that is conveyed, presenting it in graphically appealing ways, but then that leads us into facilitation.
Right.
We can't just rely on the static viewpoint here. We need to go beyond the screen and look how we can actively engage learners in that process.
Right.
And so if you think about leadership and the learners within these environments, the citizenry and the collaboration, and then the purposeful design and facilitation of these, then, and here's the last point we haven't gotten to yet, analytics.
Right.
Measure the successes.
Right.
This is what will position CU Online when you demonstrate the impact these programs have had.
Right.
And it takes several years for someone to come through a program, but capturing their testimony, capturing the real world application of knowledge that they've had and how they've made an impact in their own space in industry. That will only elevate your program, not through a metric or a statistic or a number or a chart, but through a testimony, through a lived experience that people can identify with.
Right.
That's what will bring people into your university. That's what will be, I can see myself doing that. I see myself in that individual.
Right.
And you'll have a variety of individuals who represent skin colors, genders, those type things. Diversity learning is global learning.
Right.
It does have inclusivity. It does have access, where a lot of programs do not. Lean into that. That's your strength, and that's where you'll grow.
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. J. So since you said these things, ladies and gentlemen, I have already mentioned earlier. So we are not very old program, since the online education has come recently in India during and after the COVID-19. So, but still we are doing really well, and we describe ourselves as very, very open to learning, and ready to accept new challenges, and all the time ready to share our information with the rest of the world. So that's all for now, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for watching this episode. And I once again thank you, Dr. J, for traveling all the way, from half of the world, from the US to India, to talk to us. And and in the future also, we would love to welcome you at Chandigarh University. Thank you, and Gegem.
Thank you, Josh.
Yeah.